What started as a routine day at the mall quickly turned into an intense confrontation that no one saw coming. A woman approached Barron Trump with anger in her voice and determination in her stance, ready to challenge him in front of a growing crowd. But what happened next took an unexpected turn, leaving bystanders stunned and forcing everyone to reconsider what they thought they knew. The mall hummed with life. Families shuffled in and out of stores. Kids ran past, their laughter echoing through the open corridors, and the scent of cinnamon pretzels lingered in the air. Barron Trump walked with an easy stride, hands in his pockets, his height making him stand out, even though he wasn't trying to draw attention. He had never been one to seek the spotlight, preferring privacy over public spectacle. But today, he was just another young man at the mall, enjoying an afternoon away from expectations. He had stopped outside a tech store, browsing through the latest gadgets on display, when the moment of peace shattered. So, do you always walk around like this? Like none of it matters? The voice was sharp, cutting through the casual mall chatter like a blade. Barron turned toward the sound, his expression neutral but attentive. A woman in her early 30s, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, stared at him with undeniable hostility. Shoppers instinctively slowed their steps. Some exchanged glances, sensing the tension. A few took out their phones, eyes flickering between the two as if waiting for something to unfold. Barron remained still, his pulse steady, his years of public scrutiny teaching him not to react too quickly. The woman's lips pressed into a thin line. "You act like you're just another person in here, like people don't recognize you." Barron met her gaze, unreadable. "I am just another person." A sharp laugh escaped her. "That's a joke, right? You've never had to fight for anything. You have no idea what real struggle looks like." The words weren't just an attack. They were a challenge, a demand for a response, for a reaction, for something that could validate her anger. But Barron didn't bite. Instead, he studied her, taking in the way she gripped the strap of her purse, the tension in her posture, the way her voice wavered just slightly beneath her defiance. This wasn't just about him. This was personal to her. "You don't know me," he said finally, his tone calm but firm. Her expression flickered, just for a second. Surprise? Uncertainty? It was hard to tell. "You expect me to believe you have struggles?" she scoffed. "People like you never face consequences." Barron exhaled, shifting his weight slightly. He could walk away. Ignore her. Let security handle it. Let the moment pass. But instead, he tilted his head slightly, eyes steady. "Am I really the person you're angry at?" She hadn't expected that question. The tension in the air thickened like an oncoming storm. The woman's words had been loud enough to turn heads, and now a growing crowd had begun to form. Some onlookers feigned interest in store displays, while others openly watched, their phones hovering, ready to capture the moment. Barron Trump stood in the middle of it all, his face unreadable, his posture relaxed yet aware. He had been in moments like this before. "You think people don't see through you?" the woman challenged, stepping closer. "You've had everything handed to you. Do you even know what real struggle looks like?" Her voice wavered slightly, but the anger in her eyes was real. This wasn't just about him, it was about something deeper, something personal. Years of frustration, resentment, and struggle had found a target. And today, that target was Barron Trump. For a brief second, he considered walking away. It would be easy. His security detail, who had already taken a step forward, were waiting for his cue. One nod, and they would defuse the situation. But Barron lifted a hand, a silent signal to let him handle it. "You don't know me," he said evenly, his voice neither defensive nor dismissive. He didn't raise his tone, didn't retaliate. He simply stated a fact. The woman's jaw tightened. "Oh, I know enough. I know that people like you never have to suffer the way the rest of us do." A murmur rippled through the onlookers. Some nodded in quiet agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably. But Barron's gaze never wavered. "You assume my life has been perfect," he said, "that I've never struggled. But you don't know that. Just like I don't know what you've been through." The woman hesitated, just slightly. It was barely noticeable, but it was there. She had come into this confrontation expecting arrogance, expecting pushback. But this was something else entirely. Barron tilted his head, studying her. "Am I really the person you're angry at?" The words hung in the air, heavy and unshakable. For the first time, the woman didn't have an immediate response. The energy around them had shifted, and suddenly the conversation wasn't just an argument. It was a moment of reflection. The woman's breath came a little faster now, her chest rising and falling as if the weight of her own words had caught up to her. The anger that had propelled her forward just moments ago now seemed to waver, caught in the unexpected calm of Barron Trump's response. The mall, still bustling with shoppers, seemed distant. This moment had taken on a life of its own. Barron held his ground, his expression steady, unreadable but not cold. He could see it now. This wasn't really about him. He wasn't the true source of her anger, just the easiest place to direct it. He had seen it before. People thought they knew him just because they knew his last name, but none of them had ever stopped to see the person behind it. "I understand why you feel this way," Barron said, his voice even. "But do you know me? Or do you just think you do?" The woman hesitated. That question caught her off guard. She had expected defensiveness, denial, maybe even irritation. But this forced her to think. "You assume my life has been easy because of my name," he continued, his tone never rising, never harsh. "But you don't know the challenges I've faced, just like I don't know yours." Her grip on her purse strap loosened slightly. I just wanted to make my voice heard," she admitted, the fire in her voice flickering, uncertain. "And you did," Barron nodded. His posture never shifted, never once aggressive. No insults, no retaliation, no conflict. Just respect. Around them, the onlookers watched, some still holding up their phones, waiting for an explosive moment that would never come. Others looked thoughtful, realizing how the confrontation had unexpectedly transformed into something else, a moment of reflection, of understanding rather than division. Barron didn't stay to let it linger. He had said what he needed to say. With a polite nod, he turned and walked away, leaving behind a woman who had come seeking an argument, but instead found something far more unsettling, a reason to rethink everything. The air in the mall still felt heavy, thick with the tension that had gripped the moment just minutes ago. The woman, who had come in with fire in her words and certainty in her stance, now stood frozen, her shoulders slightly slumped. This wasn't how she expected this to go. Barron Trump had never raised his voice, never fought back with anger, never gave her the reaction she had prepared for. Instead, he had met her hostility with composure, a quiet strength that had made her words feel smaller, less certain. She opened her mouth as if to say something, then closed it. Around her, the crowd had also shifted. Some had been waiting for a viral moment, expecting a heated argument, but instead, they had witnessed something else, something rare. Barron didn't linger. He nodded once, a polite but firm acknowledgement, and turned away. No need for theatrics. No need to win. As he walked toward the exit, the woman remained in place, watching him go. Her mind raced, not with anger, but with something she hadn't prepared for. Reflection. Had she truly seen him for who he was? Or had she only seen what she wanted to? The realization unsettled her. She had come looking for a fight, but instead, she had found something far more powerful. A reason to rethink everything. The hum of the mall returned as Barron Trump walked away, his figure blending back into the crowd. The confrontation had ended, yet its impact lingered. The woman, who had approached him with certainty and fire, now stood motionless, staring at the spot where he had been. She had expected a battle, anger met with anger, a reason to reinforce what she already believed. But instead, she had been met with something else entirely. Her heart pounded as she replayed his words. "Am I really the person you're angry at?" The simplicity of the question unsettled her more than any argument could have. She had been so sure that she understood him, that she knew his life, his privilege, his story. But now, standing in the middle of the mall, surrounded by strangers who had witnessed the exchange, she felt something foreign creeping in. Doubt. The crowd around her had begun to move on, some still glancing her way, but the moment had passed. There was nothing left to fuel the fire she had arrived with. She let out a slow breath, fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. Maybe, just maybe, she had been wrong. Sometimes, silence is the loudest response. Sometimes, a single question can unravel everything you thought you knew. And sometimes, the person you think you're fighting isn't the enemy at all. Was Barron's response the right approach, or would you have handled it differently? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more thought-provoking stories.